Goedemorgen, het is inmiddels 10:30 geworden. Welkom bij het webinar over BYOD en Mobile Device Management van DearBytes. Vandaag willen jullie het een en ander vertellen over onze samenwerking met AirWatch, een MDM specialist, en hoe zij oplossingen leveren die perfect eigenlijk de BYOD-uitdaging van een oplossing voorzien. Allereerst om te beginnen wil ik het een en ander vertellen over DearBytes. Ik ben zelf de algemeen directeur van DearBytes. Mijn naam is Erik Remmelswaal. Ik zal een korte introductie doen en daarna het woord geven aan Adrian Dammelton van AirWatch om verder te spreken over zijn rol bij AirWatch en wat AirWatch kan betekenen voor u als organisatie. Dus een korte introductie over DearBytes allereerst. Even kennis maken. DearBytes gelooft in een veilige en vrije digitale wereld. Een wereld waar individuen en organisaties zelf in controle zijn. Dat doen we door onze klanten inzicht te geven en samen veilige en werkbare systemen te creëren en te onderhouden. En wij bieden security oplossingen op het gebied van preventie, respons en organisatie. Alles natuurlijk rondom IT security. Nou, wat centraal staat in onze aanpak en wat we leveren aan klanten, dat is allereerst wat ik al aangaf, dat we helpen organisaties om echt in controle te zijn over informatiebeveiliging. Daarbij is de risk-based approach of risicogedreven aanpak staat centraal. Dus het is niet de bedoeling om per se een 100% alle gaten die er mogelijk zijn in een organisatie per se af te willen dichten. Dat levert altijd onwerkbare situaties op. Waar wij in geïnteresseerd zijn is wat is er echt vitaal voor een organisatie en hoe kunnen we precies die grootste risico's allereerst in beeld brengen en vervolgens van mogelijke oplossingen voorzien. Daarbij denken we ook na over efficiency en om dat te bereiken is het natuurlijk heel erg belangrijk om het geheel aan security oplossingen te overzien en daar een plan bij te bedenken in plaats van alle point products als losse producten. Dus integratie van security producten is zeer relevant. En daar streven we dus ook altijd naar. Wel werken we ook altijd met proven technology. Dus het is niet per se de bedoeling dat we single vendor beleid voeren. We willen onze klanten voorzien van de beste technologie die er beschikbaar is, die zich ook al bewezen heeft. En die dus ook zeker weten aan de verwachtingen gaat voldoen. En tenslotte de lokale aanwezigheid is iets wat DearBytes kenmerkt. Er zijn veel security specialisten op de wereld. En ook bedrijven die dat als onderdeel van een ICT-dienstverlening erbij doen. Wat DearBytes denk ik onderscheidt is dat we een relatief grote specialist zijn die zich alleen maar bezighoudt met security in het Nederlands gebied. Dus Nederland en Duitsland. En dat we ons kenmerken door snelle of korte lijnen en snelle responstijden. Dus die lokale aanwezigheid is zeker een belangrijke factor voor ons businessmodel. Nou, nog wat statistieken. DearBytes is opgericht in 2001. Zoals ik al aangaf zijn we gevestigd in zowel Nederland als Duitsland. Het moederland is Nederland. In Duitsland zijn we eigenlijk pas kort gestart. Inmiddels hebben we 62 security specialisten in dienst. We bedienen meer dan 1200 klanten. Een van de belangrijkste onderdelen van onze dienstverlening is de managed services. En die leveren vanuit ons 24/7 SOC. Dus we houden echt 24/7 toezicht op de security onderdelen van onze klanten. En signaleren daar incidenten in en reageren daar dan vervolgens ook adequaat op, ongeacht het tijdstip of moment van de dag. En tenslotte zijn we voor diverse leveranciers een relevante partner. Waaronder ook bijvoorbeeld McAfee. En we zijn afgelopen jaar verkozen tot McAfee Partner of the Year. Dit is belangrijk voor ons om dat te bewijzen heeft dat we zeker niet alleen maar een reseller zijn, maar dat we een partij zijn die echt met kennis van zaken oplossingen levert die precies aansluiten bij de behoeftes van onze klanten. En daar ook echt tot in de puntjes toe de juiste ondersteuning bij kunnen leveren. Er zijn een aantal referenties hier genoemd. We hebben in principe zoveel klanten dat we in elke sector, in elke regio van het land en elke omvang van klanten wel vertegenwoordigd zijn en aardige referentiecases kunnen noemen, ook buiten degene die hier nu genoemd zijn. Nou, dat tenslotte centraal staat in onze businessmodel natuurlijk de dienstverlening. Wij proberen technologie te leveren aan klanten en daar aanvullend daaraan dienstverlening die precies aansluit op de behoeftes die klanten hebben. Wat we merken is dat bedrijven bezig zijn om delen van hun IT-dienstverlening te outsourcen en dat ook geldt voor security dienstverlening. Dus als er stappen worden gezet op het gebied van beveiliging, dat men meer controle en inzicht wil hebben in wat er in het netwerk zich allemaal afspeelt, dan hebben we het over met name SIEM, IDS en Vulnerability Management. Dan zijn dat onderdelen waarbij steeds vaker gezocht wordt naar managed service providers. DearBytes is precies een partij die daar op een heel gedegen manier invulling aan kan geven. Dus ja, dat zijn zaken die wij doen. Maar wat wij eigenlijk zelf vooral proberen te zijn voor onze klanten is het eerste aanspreekpunt als het gaat om security in zijn algemeenheid. Dus we proberen niet alleen maar bezig te zijn met point products, maar eigenlijk in de breedte van het onderwerp IT security mee te kunnen denken, daar relevant in te zijn. Dus waar het ons om gaat is om situational awareness te leveren. Dus klanten echt in staat te stellen om te weten wat er zich afspeelt, zodat ze daar op een adequate manier op kunnen reageren. In onze SLA's en Service Level Agreements kunnen we zo ver gaan als het beloven en ook bereiken van 99% compliance. Dat wil zeggen dat we ervoor zorgen dat alle systemen in het netwerk voorzien zijn van de laatste versies van de security software. En die ook helemaal dus up-to-date is met de laatste definities en zaken als patches, upgrades. En dat we bovendien dus, wat ik net al zei, 24/7 incident response leveren. Continu eigenlijk klaarstaan om in te grijpen als er onverhoopt toch iets misgaat, ongeacht die hoge compliance. Dus ja, dat kunnen we allemaal doen. We leveren verschillende service level modellen, daar zal ik verder nu niet op ingaan. Maar ja, onthoud dat we ook bij de MDM en BYOD dus heel graag iets kunnen betekenen. Nou, waarom hebben we voor AirWatch gekozen? Zoals ik eerder al aangaf, is een heel belangrijk aspect in onze portfolio is dat we werken met proven technology. Op mobile device management niveau wordt er al een poosje gekeken naar de verschillende aanbieders die op dat vlak aanwezig zijn. En in het vak van de leaders, als je kijkt naar Gartner, is AirWatch een van de 3, denk ik, topspelers. Inmiddels overgenomen door VMware overigens. Maar hij staat dus helemaal rechtsbovenin in het Gartner-kwadrant. Daar zal Adrian straks nog wel meer over vertellen. Maar dat is ook zeker de keuze voor ons, of de reden voor ons om met AirWatch te gaan samenwerken. Over BYOD gesproken dan. BYOD is staat voor Bring Your Own Device. Dus de gedachte dat medewerkers hun eigen apparatuur meenemen naar het werk en daar ook hun werkzaamheden op gaan verrichten. Dit onderwerp speelt eigenlijk al een tijdje en het is een beetje een buzzwoord. Iets wat eigenlijk al een poosje rondgaat in de markt. Als een soort van, voor een deel ook wel doemdenken als het gaat om security. Van hoe ga je dat nou volgens onder controle krijgen? Nou, het wordt, of werd in ieder geval al een tijd lang gedacht dat als je BYOD gaat implementeren dat je allereerst een beleid nodig hebt. Maar het is al duidelijk dat ondanks dat organisaties zo'n beleid nog niet hebben, dat er al lang sprake is van BYOD. Dus het gebeurt al lang dat medewerkers hun eigen apparatuur meenemen naar de werkvloer. Ik heb hier een print screen eventjes geplaatst van security.nl. Dat is een artikel alweer van 2012, waarin Microsoft onderzocht heeft onder medewerkers in hoeverre ze inderdaad dus hun eigen apparatuur meenemen naar de werkvloer. En het bleek uit dat 67% van de respondenten dat inderdaad doen. En dat is ongeacht de vraag of daar inderdaad dus ook een beleid voor is. Het resultaat is dus dat er dus inderdaad niet bedrijfsmatige apparatuur in het netwerk aanwezig is, of we dat nu willen of niet. En als we het over BYOD hebben, hebben we het natuurlijk niet alleen maar over smartphones en tablets, maar ook gewoon over notebooks en USB-sticks en zelfs ook wireless access points. Dus ik heb een apparaat, het is een tablet, die kan alleen maar verbinden met de wifi. De organisatie ondersteunt dat niet of levert dat niet. En dus neem ik als medewerker mijn eigen wifi access point mee, plus dat in op het kantoor. En zodat ik mooi mijn tablet kan gebruiken. Maar goed, iedereen die zich bezighoudt met security weet natuurlijk dat dat tegelijkertijd enorme gevolgen kan hebben over de vraag van ben ik nou echt in control, ja of nee. Dus met andere woorden, het is een onderwerp waar we eigenlijk allemaal iets mee moeten, nu al. En nou, waarom dan mobile device management? Allereerst, eigenlijk om twee redenen. Allereerst dus inderdaad vanwege dat feit dat er sprake is van BYOD. En dat we tegelijkertijd in ons netwerk werken met gevoelige data. En als wij dus geen mobile device management toepassen, dan komt die gevoelige data mogelijkerwijs op systemen te staan die niet voorzien zijn van een beleid. Die dus bijvoorbeeld niet gelokt worden door de gebruikers. En waardoor ja, die gevoelige data dus makkelijk inzichtelijk kan worden voor ja, in het geval van verlies of diefstal van de desbetreffende apparatuur. Dus het is gewoon nodig dat je dit soort apparatuur onder controle houdt wanneer het zich ja, toegang verschaft tot de bedrijfsmatige informatie. Dus dat is reden 1. En ten tweede is er ook een ja, belangrijke trend gaande ten aanzien van mobiele malware. Er wordt eigenlijk al een poosje voor gewaarschuwd dat er een enorme groei is in de hoeveelheid malware die uit wordt gebracht. Dit onderzoek komt eventjes van McAfee. En zij hebben voor afgelopen jaar 2013 laten zien dat de groei eigenlijk enorm is van malware varianten die uitkomen. Dus het is eigenlijk kwaadaardige software. Zoals we virussen kennen, ook wel voor Windows computersystemen, zijn er dus ook gewoon voor mobiele devices. Met name voor Android devices, maar niet alleen beperkt daartoe. Nou, en voor 2014 wordt er nadrukkelijk gewaarschuwd voor mobiele ransomware. Ransomware kennen we ook met name van Windows systemen. Een heel bekend voorbeeld daarvan is CryptoLocker. Dat is software die een systeem volledig op slot zet, alle bestanden versleutelt en losgeld vraagt om de bestanden weer te ontsluiten. Dit soort software is zeer succesvol en eigenlijk de groei daarvan wordt ook nog eens ja, gestimuleerd door de opkomst van digitale betaalmethoden zoals Bitcoin. En ja, dus er komt steeds meer mobiele ransomware bij. En ja, er komt steeds meer ransomware bij en dat richt zich ook steeds vaker op mobiele devices. Hier een screenshot staan van ja, inderdaad een vorm van mobiele ransomware wat zich richt op Android, dus inderdaad in dit geval. En wat precies op dezelfde manier functioneert. Dus het lokt eigenlijk min of meer je systeem totdat je het losgeld betaalt wat wordt geëist. En daarna zal het zich hopelijk verwijderen. Nooit volledig waarschijnlijk. Maar dat is dus iets wat steeds vaker op mobiele devices een bedreiging vormt. En betekent ook dat steeds vaker het kan zijn dat mobiele devices die worden meegebracht naar het bedrijfsnetwerk mogelijkerwijs al voorzien zijn van kwaadaardige software. En dat wanneer ze dus in verbinding worden gebracht met die gevoelige informatie, dat het alle consequenties van dien kan hebben. Nou, hier kan Adrian Dumbleton waarschijnlijk heel veel meer over vertellen. Ik ga nu de presentatie overgeven naar hem. Hij zit niet naast mij, dus we gaan eventjes via het internet, via de cloud, de presentatie overdragen. En dat doen we zo. Adrian, you ready?
Yes, great Eric. Thank you very much indeed.
Oké, dus Adrian neemt de presentatie over. Zoals jullie horen spreekt hij in het Engels. Neem aan dat dat voor niemand per se een probleem is. Mochten er vragen ontstaan gedurende de presentatie, dan kunnen die gesteld worden via de tool GoToWebinar. Ik zit zelf gedurende de presentatie nog erbij om eventuele vragen te beantwoorden of daar kunnen we op een later moment nog op terugkomen. Bedankt in ieder geval voor uw aandacht zover en ik geef het woord hierbij aan Adrian.
Great, thank you Eric, and what a great introduction. So, as Eric described, my name is Adrian Dumbleton. I head up our sales and operational organisations for AirWatch throughout the European, Middle Eastern and African regions. I was privileged enough to be employee number 1 for AirWatch here in Europe, so I've really spent the last 3.5 years understanding this sort of new world of mobility with a new era of devices. So hopefully today I can shed some insight into a little bit around where the markets come from, where we are today as a marketplace, but more importantly where we're looking forward to going through over the next couple of years, and of course how DearBytes and AirWatch are helping you solve those mobility challenges. So AirWatch is around 1,600 employees. We currently operate in 150 different countries with 17 different languages through there. We have around 10,000 customers currently. They range in size from our smallest customers of 10 to 15 devices all the way through to our largest implementation currently just over 1 million devices. So we have some great experience through different types of vertical and size of organization, and this really allows us to offer some of the best practices in the industry today around solving some of those solutions. As you can imagine, this is a relatively new market, so we're currently growing at a rate of around 600 to 700 new customers per month. When we started in the marketplace just around 7 years ago, one of our key strategies was to really go and win all of the largest customers in each vertical. And that wasn't really just to drive revenue, that was really to aid us in our product design and development. You know, as you can imagine, the larger multinationals offer some of the most secure and complex networks in the world. And this has really helped us to grow our technology to the enterprise grade that it is today. What it's also done is allow us to understand the difference in the market verticals. I think we've seen in the marketplace over the last few years a very generic approach to mobile device management, you know, offering the basic policy and profile deployment to devices. AirWatch takes quite a different approach, really offering you some very niche applications dependent on the verticals that you're in, to really offer your employees that, you know, best of breed line of business application to really enhance the mobile experience within the marketplace that they're in. And obviously today's webinar is going to be very generic, but please feel free to speak to the teams at DearBytes or here at AirWatch, and we can share our experience in some of those vertical specific environments. I guess very easy for myself to say that we're the greatest company in the world when it comes to enterprise mobility, but to build on what Eric was talking about, AirWatch has been recognized by the analysts throughout the world as a leader in this space really for the last 4 to 5 years. Not only just in our cloud-based technology, but also on our on-premise deployments, and more recently as we start to move into the world of content collaboration, the file sync and share platforms is key for the analysts. And we're happy to share any of the analysts' findings, which really talk about not only our strengths, but also some of our weaknesses as a business. And I think that's important to share with teams. So really, what are we talking about when we're talking about enterprise mobility? I think for those of you that have been watching the environment for the last few years, we all started life as mobile device management companies, and this was really using the manufacturer's platforms to be able to deploy out some of the basic configurations or restriction profiles to these devices. So for example, you buy a brand new iPad, you know, you can enroll it into AirWatch, and it allows you to deploy down things like email configurations, Wi-Fi, VPN configurations. It also allows you to start to switch off some of the native applications, so you could switch off and remove access to YouTube or the app stores. And this was really the very beginning concepts of mobile device management. Over the last 2 to 3 years, the technology, both from the vendors that are providing it and also the manufacturers, has advanced quite quickly. So we've moved away from the world of pure device management into the world of enterprise mobility. And this really diagram here describes some of the components. So mobile device management is really a foundation of everything that we do. When we look at the control protocols that we put in place, they all leverage the manufacturer's native deployment mechanisms. But we're starting to move to the world of applications. So if we look back 3 years ago, we lived in a world of business-to-consumer applications. These were applications that were available on the public app stores, you know, or Play stores on your different platforms. They were very, very lightweight. They weren't really designed for enterprise, but you know, they were heavily adopted by users in the consumerized world. So the process of people purchasing apps was very well defined back then. About 18 months ago, we moved into the world of business-to-business applications. Gartner famously made a statement that if SAP didn't start to deliver enterprise applications, they'd be out of business within 2 years. we started to see the true enterprise applications being developed for all of the different platforms. We started to see the upsurge of what we classify as enterprise app catalogs. So these are separate from the public application stores, and these allow organizations to be able to deploy out not only publicly available applications, but also internally developed applications. And this can be to your own internal employees, this could be maybe to vendors, contractors, app auditors, etc. So it really empowered organizations to start to control the flow of applications into their ecosystem. In the last 6 months, we've seen the next phase, which is really the business-to-employee applications. I think the term bring your own device is nothing particularly new. However, we've never really seen it heavily adopted in the European markets. Primarily, we feel because of the privacy laws, which are in place in many, many countries. These are obviously a lot more relaxed out in areas like North America. So what we started to see is the business-to-employee applications start to be developed, and these really require minimal device management functionality. So they're standalone applications with inbuilt application security, reputation scanning like Eric described, and this is really allowing organizations to deploy out quite secure applications to employees' own devices for things like shift pattern scheduling or basic information give. Over the last 12 months as well, we've also seen the upsurge in content delivery to these new generation of smart devices. I think if we look at anything around content delivery, applications, whether it's on a more traditional laptop or indeed a smart device, we really start to see the behavior of end users is all about content consumption, whether it's documentation, whether it's videos, audio books, or application data. So AirWatch has taken an approach of offering what we call a secure content locker. This is a separate application that lives on the device, offers multiple levels of authentication, and really integrates into the existing enterprise infrastructure in a back end. So different data repositories, SharePoint, for example, to simply be the vehicle to be able to deploy legacy technology into the new generation of smart devices. And we'll take a look at that very shortly. Email management, back in sort of 2012, the #1 request from MDM vendors was to deploy email down to these devices. All the C-level executives got bought iPads and iPhones for Christmas, really didn't understand exactly what they wanted to do with them, but they did want their email on those. So what we started to see was organizations either wanting to go down a containerized email approach, so offering a completely sandboxed application, or leveraging the native email experience, which offered better usability. Over the subsequent couple of years, we've really seen that technology develop quite quickly to where organizations are looking at deploying both types of technology. So for their most secure users, organizations are deploying an email container, for example, the AirWatch inbox. This integrates seamlessly into the content management solution to offer things like attachment stripping. So really, if you look at what secure content is generally in emails, it's not the text within the email itself, it's the content that's held within the attachment on there. Other parts of the organization have less secure requirements for their emails, so they leverage the native email clients that are on the devices, and this can be in a bring-your-own-device world or indeed in a corporately owned devices. And one of the strengths of AirWatch is leveraging our multi-tenant architecture. We can offer these different solutions to different areas of the organization seamlessly and simply managed under one platform. So we can take a look at that in the demonstration shortly. So if we look at AirWatch's vision for now, it's really to be managing every single mobile device, whether that's a newer generation smartphone, tablet, whether it's more of a legacy laptop, Mac OS X, Windows 7. The more ruggedized environment, so we still see a huge amount of the professional ruggedized devices out there. There's still a lot of Windows Professional 6.x, but also we're seeing a new generation of Android ruggedized, tablet and smartphones coming out, all the way through to peripherals. And we start to look at things like the Internet of Things. We're moving into much more of a connected world. We're starting to see not only our more traditional devices connecting, but also scanners, printers. We're starting to see connected cars, Apple TVs. smart TVs. The list could go on of devices that are really connecting to our networks. And AirWatch's vision is to manage any device with any operating system. One of the beauties is having operations in the Far East is we start to see a lot of these operating systems come out quite early. And then starting to support organizations with the different types of deployment mechanism. We realize not one size fits all, so we can see maybe we've got in a hospital a shared device used by different nurses or doctors in different shift patterns. Maybe organizations are offering bring your own devices. Maybe organizations have corporate devices or specific devices for different types of job function. So AirWatch is offering you the ability to manage those different devices cross-platform, all under a single entity. Skipping through, sorry, I've been talking a fair amount and I'm conscious of time. So we mentioned our multi-tenant architecture, and this is really very important for lots of organizations when they're looking at rolling out mobility projects. Here you can see a basic global organization, but this can be applicable for small localized. We can see we have different tiers, very similar to how we'd be used to in directories, for example, where we can have different role-based access for administrators. We can have different things like Tier 1, Tier 2 support users with escalation paths. And what this allows the organization to do is have different policies, profiles, application, content delivered to different user groups, maybe different device types, maybe different geographic locations, and each of those can have an individual administrator. An example I often use in this scenario is the person who's responsible for content in an organization generally lives within a marketing or an operational function, not an IT function. So AirWatch gives you the ability to make a role-based job function for a marketeer who has the ability to update content on devices but doesn't have the ability to maybe administer things like Wi-Fi profiles, or be able to delete devices, for example. One of the other key elements for AirWatch, and a big part of our relationship with DearBytes, is really the integration and the understanding of existing enterprise infrastructure. AirWatch is not arrogant enough to think that we're a big piece of technology in the world of true enterprise systems. And you can see on the screen now, hopefully, many of the enterprise systems that you may already have in place. So a big part of what we're trying to achieve is allow you to leverage those existing proven enterprise technologies and deploy them out into a new generation of smart mobile devices. Some of the simple traditional mechanisms, as dual factor authentication. AirWatch is offering you a software development kit to enable you to build into some of your applications the ability to leverage device management functionality combined with your legacy RSA token system, for example, to offer a secure vehicle for authenticating into applications. Tie that into again, existing VPN solution. AirWatch offers you the ability to have multiple VPNs by different application within a container. So you're leveraging your existing secure tunneling technology combined with AirWatch and its new generation smart device technology. So that was a very quick overview of us as a business and the concept of our technology. What I'd like to do now is to jump into a product demonstration to be able to show you some of the features and the functions that we've just described. So today I'm going to be acting as two separate people. Here on the screen you can see our administration console, and I'm also going to be acting as an end user with a device that you can see. So the first thing we're going to do is work as the end user. So I have a strong philosophy in all areas of business that I've ever worked in, that end users are stupid. I'm an end user, and I continually make mistakes whenever I'm asked to put in a complex password or download a specific version of a piece of software or an application. So one of the key principles that AirWatch has worked on is how we can make the end user experience as simple and as quick as possible. So you can see here that we have a very similar bring your own style device You know, I've got some of my own personal applications on the device, but I currently don't have things like any corporate email, etc. on there. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be enrolling this device. So we ask the end user to download the AirWatch application from the App Store. We simply ask them to input some basic information. So this will probably be their directory credentials. Here you can see we're asking for a username and password. We have 4 main types of authentication. Basic authentication, so a one-time username and password. We have directory-based authentication, so this is a more traditional system. We'd be integrating into an existing AD, asking a user to enter credentials that they already know. And then we offer a more federated stroke SAML authentication process for organizations that were using those. So here you can see I'm simply going to enter my directory credentials, something that I probably enter on my laptop every single day, very quick and easy. We're presented with a terms of use document on the screen. Now this is definable by you as an organization by different groups of users. So maybe the sales team would have a different terms of use than an IT team. Maybe the directors of your business would have a different terms. This is really replacing the 20-page document for usage of a mobile device. It also starts to describe some of the activities that you'll be taking place. So here you can see we're explaining to an end user that we're not going to be capturing GPS information. We're not going to be capturing call logs or SMS or emails on the devices. Now again, depending on the type of setup you're using, you may capture that information. But this is an opportunity for that end user to accept what you're going to be doing on their device. Very, very important in a bring your own style device world. Here we're going to be installing the initial profile. This profile is going to connect this device to the AirWatch back end, and it's going to start to, based on that user configuration, deploy down all of the different policies and profiles that we want from that user. So from an end user's perspective, they're complete. For the purposes of the demonstration, we're simply going to pop into the settings area, and you can see now at a native operating system level, we're starting to deploy down some of the policies and profiles based on that user credentials. So today we're going to put down a verification profile. This is going to check that this device on our asset register is being enrolled by the same person whose user credentials are being used. So we're doing a small security verification. We're pushing down some of the single sign-on functionality into the Safari and the secure browser. We're going to push down a passcode on the device and also deploy down some of the restrictions for native applications. So you can see there very, very quickly and simply we've deployed down those. The first thing the device is going to ask us for is a passcode before we can continue. In our case today it's going to be a very simple 4-digit passcode, but we can go up to 16-digit alphanumeric. Of course, to enforce the 256-bit encryption on these devices, you need a minimum of 13 digits. We also integrate with some of our technology partners and start to be able to deploy down some of the things like eyewear and retinal authentication. So the device is all ready to go. So as an end user, we've got access to our corporate services. Let's take a look at what that means from an administration and an auditing perspective. So here we can see now our web-based console. The web-based console is HTML5, meaning that we can do lots of cool things like different branding of technology. So if you are a different type of users or you have different types of functions within your business, you can simply change logos, change colors, change the layouts of the system very, very easy. That may or may not be important to your organization, but if we look at areas such as education, managed service offerings, that can really start to pay dividends on those pieces. Here you can see we have a very dashboard style. So I'm currently logged in as a super user, so I have administration rights across the whole of my organization. You can see that by the fact in our multi-tenant environment, I can do drop-downs here. I can see our entire global organization and all of the child and parent relationships within that. I also, on the left-hand side, have full access to all of our different menu options. So I really have full power to do everything. If I was to log in as a Tier 1 help desk user, you'll be able to see that we can start to leverage that role-based access. I now only have access to a defined group of users. I've also lost a lot of the functionality on the left-hand side. So really here, I'm a view-only admin user for that particular group of users. And don't worry, in the normal setup, you wouldn't be able to flick through users this easily. Obviously we have, again, directory-based authentication for end users. So the dashboards are designed really for your operational style meetings. They give you the ability to get a snapshot of what's going on within your mobile estate. So we can see, for example, we've got 947 devices currently enrolled in our environment. You can see the different deployments. So have we got compliant devices, non-compliant devices? Have we got dedicated devices, the bring your own employee-owned devices? We can start to see the breakdown of when devices have last been seen, and again, importantly, what types of devices we've got enrolled. So what operating systems are we currently trying to manage? This can be very important when you start to look at the bring your own device models. AirWatch has the ability for you to define what operating systems to allow into your environment. So you could maybe restrict it to iOS or Android only, or you can have the ability to allow any device to be enrolled, but quarantine certain styles of devices until you have the ability to be able to audit and make sure they're suitable for your environment. Also, it allows you to start to understand what types of application you may be wanting to develop. If that's part of your mobility strategy, maybe you want to understand if you go for native applications, how much of your assets are Android or iOS versus a Windows phone, for example. Or if you've got a very, very mixed estate of devices, maybe you only want to be developing web applications. What we can do with this data is start to drill into it. So, for example, we can drill into our iOS devices, and we now get a more traditional list of devices that we have. We can see here my device, Adrian Dumbleton iPad. We can see that it was last seen 1 minute ago when we enrolled it. From a help desk user's perspective, we also have a federated search, so you can search by username, maybe mobile number, asset tag ID, for example, or indeed we have the ability in this middle section to be able to start to look at the different types of filters that we want to be able to deploy. We can also save those views, so if an administrator is doing a regular set of tasks with a group of devices, they can create their own filter groups. So if we drill a bit further into my device, here as an administrator, we start to get some basic information around that device. So we can see across the top area, the device is currently not compromised. So during that enrollment, periodically we go through to check to see if this device is jailbreaked, or indeed on an Android if that device is rooted. We're checking to see if there's any compliance violations. So AirWatch has what we call an automating compliance engine. This is constantly running in the background, looking to see any breaches in a predefined set of rules. So, for example, blacklisted applications. Maybe you have content being delivered to your devices and you want to blacklist an application like Dropbox, because if an employee can upload documentation into Dropbox, it means you lose the integrity of your data. Maybe you want to see if the employee is in a compliance rule for data roaming. Maybe you don't have a data roaming plan with your current carrier, meaning if the device goes outside of its home network, you want to start to limit what that device can access from a data-intensive application perspective. So the compliance engine looks for all of those rules, and then you can start to determine the different types of actions. The pop-up message to the end user. You maybe want to say, actually, you've just downloaded Angry Birds. We don't think that's very compliant. However, there's not a big security risk to our business. So we'll simply send a message to the end user to say, please remove it. The compliance engine then has a series of automated escalation rules, meaning that if that user hasn't deleted Angry Birds within 24 hours, you can take an automated higher escalation. That may be remove access to their email, for example. Ultimately, all the way escalating up to the ability to remotely wipe that device of all corporate information and preventing the ability for them to re-enroll that device, meaning they have to go to their manager maybe for an access code and explain why they didn't have their device in compliance. We can see some of the basic security information. So have we got the different device encryptions and data protections enabled? We can see some basic user information. Again, this is definable as part of the privacy policy to determine how much information we capture from this end user. Do we capture it from the end user or do we capture it from a directory, for example, is definable by you. We can also capture that information and either choose to display it or just hold it in a database for compliance regions. We also see a series of device information, so the serial number, UDID, asset tags. So AirWatch can act as a full asset management system, integrated into things like your carrier networks, so you can, in fact, back-to-back onto your existing carrier for things like device ordering, procurement processes, or indeed, if you have a different help desk scenario, we can integrate into those and integrate into your asset management. We can see a list of the profiles that were deployed down to the device. We can see a list of the applications that are currently deployed on the device, and this gives the administrator the ability to be able to understand what applications are deployed, and also gives the administrator the ability to remotely add or remove applications that have been deployed via you as an organization. So you can see here we have the ability to install applications, remotely remove applications. If you have built the software development kit into your own applications, you can have the ability to offer single sign-on functionality, or indeed you have the ability to clear the passcode if an end user has the ability to forget those pieces. We can also request logs from those applications. So as part of your ongoing application R&D efforts, you can simply start to request the different features and functions that have been logged on that application. We can see all of the content that's deployed down to the device, and again, maybe a marketing user or a content user has the ability to push or pull documentation down to those devices. Within our content management system, AirWatch offers what we call geofencing abilities. So that means you can set predetermined geographic locations where content is available. We see this particularly useful for things like board of directors meetings, where you maybe have non-executive directors all arrive at a building for a particular board meeting. They will only have access to the content in their content locker while they're in that particular building. We also have time-based profiles, meaning, for example, if you've got a new price list or you've got a particular press release to be launched out to all of your employees, you can actually upload that into the system a few days prior and simply set a time on the system to automatically make that document available. So it means it's not you don't have to have a user there to deploy it at 1 minute past midnight on a Sunday, for example. We also have the ability to track a location of a user if we need to. So here you can see I'm in sunny Milton Keynes in the UK. Again, in many Central European companies, they choose not to GPS track due to workers' councils or legislation within the particular country. However, for some organisations, in certain situations, it's a desirable function, particularly within the executive group of users. This can help with insurances, personal protection protocols, etc. So it may be an option that you want to use for certain different areas. We can also go through and see things like network connections, configuring using things like Cisco ICE. We can do physical and logical authentication into buildings. So we're capturing a huge amount of information around what devices or which networks this device is connecting to. Also, which restrictions we're pushing down. Telecom management is a whole separate area around uploading your different telecom plans into it, starting to manage data usage on devices, starting to throttle back things like data-intensive applications such as YouTube, outside of data roaming plans. Also, the use of certificates is becoming more and more applicable in this sort of new generation of smart devices. We're starting to see many organisations use either dual or triple factor authentication, meaning username and password, mainly directory credentials, soft or hard token, either at device side or application side, and then a level of encrypted certificate, either living within an application code, a reputation scan which triggers it, and this offers multiple layers of authentication in those pieces. So that's really a brief overview of what we can see as an administrator on a particular device. Just to show you some of the configuration areas that we do before we go back into the device side, we're leveraging traditionally integration into existing directories, so we don't really want to go and reinvent the wheel and create all of your users again. We simply want to add a type of repository, normally a directory, and inherit all of the roles, accesses, usernames, passwords that you may be using for those pieces. When we're looking at applications and books, again, different types of applications. Internal applications, they're developed by yourself or a third party on your behalf, but they never actually go out to the third-party app stores. So, in iOS, the Apple App Store or the Play Stores, they're simply loaded into your own enterprise app catalog, branded as your app catalog if necessary. So you simply upload the particular file to here and determine which groups of users that you're going to deploy that particular application out to. If we look at the public app stores, again, lots of great applications out there. AirWatch has got full integrations into all of the different app stores across all of your different platforms that you can see. So as an administrator, we'd simply go in, we would choose a particular application that we want to deploy, we'd be able to search that particular app store, and we can go through and select which particular version we want. We fully understand that different applications and different app stores have different rules, so you can see here that we can go through and we can start to choose the particular app store that's applicable, and we can start to see the currency changes, versions change, and indeed some applications may or may not be available in your particular country. Again, once we've selected those, you can choose the groups of users. The final piece within applications is the Apple Volume Purchase Program. So AirWatch is currently one of only 2 vendors in the world that is fully integrated into the new version of the Volume Purchase Program, meaning that you can go and buy a series of licenses, let's say 1,000 licenses for Keynote, and you can centrally procure that application. You can determine which users that application goes out to, and indeed AirWatch takes care of the product code towards that application. The unique feature of the Volume Purchase Program that was recently launched is now when that user deletes that application, you can redeem that code. So you can reuse that code as an organization. And as I said, AirWatch is one of the only organizations that can do that. The Volume Purchase Program isn't available in all countries throughout Europe, so if you do have a multi-country operation, please check with Apple that purchase program is available for you to use. We talked around the content delivery systems, so we're going to look here at our content system. We can see here the different types of repositories that we've already got integrated into. So in our demo systems, we have a basic file share, we have an Office 365, we have a corporate SharePoint integrated there already. So you can start to determine, which repositories you want to use, and also you can start to add new repositories. So you can see here a list of repositories that we've already got pre-built. It simply is as simple as going through, determining what type of data repository you want to integrate, the name, the link to that user, different types of authentication. Are you going through a secure email gateway or access gateway? Are you inheriting all of the different systems? You test the connection, and then your administrator has access to that repository to start to deploy out into your user environment the different types of content. So if we head back to the device now, we're coming to the end of our journey. You can see here my device. We used a federated search to get there. Here on the screen is my enterprise device. You can see that we deployed down our corporate email during the deployment. We've also deployed down some of our corporate applications along the bottom there. So the secure content locker that we sit in the back end for, that's the data repository. You can see here the app catalog. So this would be branded as yourself. This would be where you would be deploying all of your in-house applications, etc., or also recommended applications for the end user. So from an administration side of things, we can now take the scenario that this user has decided to leave the organization, or indeed their device has been lost or stolen. So we simply go into the administration console. You can see we have the ability to lock the device, or indeed we have the ability to go through and remove information from that device. So this is simply removing all of the corporate information that you've deployed down to the device. So particularly in a bring your own device model, this doesn't touch any of their personal data, so any of their personal email, personal pictures, personal applications, all remain intact. You also see here on the screen we have the ability to prevent re-enrollment. So this means that even if the username and password has not been deleted in Active Directory, this user will not be able to re-enroll their smart device to gain access to their information. So we click on the Enterprise Wipe, and this will simply start to delete out all of the different applications on this device will be removed, and you can start to see that we've removed out the email on the device. So all of our corporate information has been removed. However, all of my personal games and applications are still intact. So from an end user's journey, their journey is done. From an administration perspective, we've recouped another AirWatch license to go and deploy out to a different subset of users. So that really brings our high-level overview of AirWatch to an end. I think it's really key for us to understand that we've really just scratched the surface of what the AirWatch technology can do. And again, I'm bringing back up the enterprise integration slide to remind us of many of the different types of technology that we already have in our organization, and really to remind you that AirWatch in combination and partnership with DearBytes is here to assist you to be able to deploy your existing enterprise systems out into a new world of enterprise mobility. This space is moving faster than ever before. You know, we're seeing a new release of the Android operating system every 13 hours. And that, for an organization with a bring your own device model, you know, offers huge amounts of challenges. We no longer have, 3 months to go through beta testing, another 3 months to go through user acceptance testing before we launch out into the live world. We're living in a world of consumerized IT. This means that the consumer or the end user has the ability to update applications, update operating systems. So as security officers, as IT managers, administrators, directors, whatever we may be, we have to have a tool that has the ability to react to the marketplace in the timescales that meets the end user requirements. AirWatch is lucky enough to be the largest enterprise mobility vendor in the world, which means we have the most significant relationships with the operating, the OEMs in the market. So we're important to Apple, we're important to Samsung, we're important to Microsoft and Google, meaning that we get access to these latest updates earlier than anybody else. It means we have the ability to deploy out quickly to our established database. AirWatch was the only vendor in the marketplace to offer iOS 7.1 support before iOS 7.1 was released. There's still vendors in the marketplace today that cannot deal with the dynamic token length that iOS 7 operates in. This can cause huge amounts of security implications to organizations. So I would like to say thank you very much for your time today. Hopefully that's given you a very high-level insight into the functionality and enterprise mobility with AirWatch, and I'd love to be able to discuss your individual projects with you through our partners DearBytes over the coming months. So thank you very much indeed for your time.
Hiermee zijn we aan het einde gekomen van het webinar. Ik bedank u hartelijk voor de aandacht. Mochten er nog vragen zijn, dan kunt u ons bereiken op het volgende nummer. Dat staat nu in beeld 0251 750 250. Het webinar is ook opgenomen en zullen we later vandaag of morgen online zetten, waarna het ook kan worden teruggekeken. Dank u wel.